Right, you lot, and I think I just want to address the elephant in the room. It's a little awkward to be talking positive about Disney right now with everything going on, and I just want to state that this ranking is going to be solely based and focused on kind of the animation studio, not the corporate cesspool that deserves really zero respect. I just want to express my allegiance with writers and actors striking. As I write this, I don't know if the strikes will be over by the time this video comes out, and this will be outdated, but I just want to kind of say they're completely justified. Bob Iger, man. Just, oh my god. But anyway, let's focus now on the magic. Since I was a child, Disney captured me in a way nothing else could, and well, the output of Disney is far from consistent. When they do deliver, they deliver films that are truly timeless and universal. It offers an escapism to a more magical place behind all the politics and questionable moves of certain higher-ups. Looking at you, Katzenberg. The effort, dedication, and passion in these movies overrides, in my opinion, the corporate kind of element. I've always really loved Disney. However, I realise there's a fair few Disney films that I haven't actually seen, and some of these might be quite embarrassing, as I reveal later on. And I wanted a chance to actually watch the whole catalogue and have an excuse to do it, and my days, it was a ride. It really is so fascinating to see the evolution this company's been from, see the different eras and how certain things worked and certain things didn't as time went on. Now, what is so fun about Disney and why I'm doing this ranking is the quality of these movies range so significantly, which, you know, it's understandable when you've made many films as Disney has, but for every classic, there's also a dud. So, at times it was really painful and really difficult to actually get through this marathon. However, when the good thing happened and the good films showed up, it made it all the more worth it. And the good thing about the ranking format is that hopefully I will get happier as the video goes on, so we can kind of start from the bottom and work our way up. Also, I just want to really make it clear, because I'm going to see comments like, where's the Goofy movie? Where's the Wild? Where's Toy Story? Where's Cinderella 3? A Twist in Time? Well, I want to make it very clear that I'm only including the 61 official Walt Disney animated studio film. So that's no Pixar, no Disney Toons, and no The Wild. Please do not ask me where The Wild is. It's not officially Disney. It was just distributed by them. And honestly, I'm glad I didn't have to watch The Wild again, so I got away with them there. Also, one more thing. I know I'm drawing this out a lot. This ranking is subjective and based on my very not consistent and complex taste, and if you disagree with placement, I really want you to please let me know in the comments, because I really want to have a discussion, and if you can see something that I maybe perhaps missed, and perhaps there's something there that wasn't there before. Okay, with that I think we should get on with it. And in 61st, in the worst Disney film of all time, drumroll please, is Home on the Range. Are you really surprised? Most bad Disney films, you can at least see why they made it, at least. Like, maybe the idea was there, but it just did not translate onto the big screen, and that's okay. But with Home on the Range, you just can't do that. It's such a failure of a concept. Like, it's so dumb. You've got this group of cows having to save their farm from, like, this yodeler. It's stupid, and it's not Disney standard. The biggest problem with the movie for me is the humour. It just isn't funny. There's moments when you, like, kind of wonder to yourself if they're actually trying to make a joke. It's just that bad. The humour isn't trying to be clever either. And, like, throw things in that will kind of go over the children's heads, like clever Disney films do. It's so childish. The only aspect of the humour that maybe kind of works is Jennifer Tilly's performance. Like, she gets a laughy once in a while, but aside from that, nah. The villain is actually not as bad as I thought he'd be. Like, I'd not seen Home of the Range before, luckily, and I knew about this yodeler guy, but honestly, like, as much as he was a joke of a threat, and he was way too easily taken down, at least, like, his song was fun, it had some fun visuals, and he was entertaining in a way. Like, But it's just a really bad film with just really nothing really that good about it, to be honest. The only thing I liked was actually the horse character. I was actually way more invested in his arc and his story than all the cows, and I feel like that said a lot. He was actually a decent character, but apart from that, it's a terrible, nothing film that has really no right to exist. 2 out of 10. Okay, 60th, and this one won't shock you. I would do a drum roll, but it's Chicken Little. I feel like a broken record talking about this film, and when I was kind of making my notes and putting together the script of this video, I kind of realised I'm not going to bring anything new to the table. Everyone knows why Chicken Little didn't work. And that is at the heart of the picture. This film is so mean-spirited. And it thinks it's so funny. It thinks, like, it's so hilarious to make fun of being an outcast or being overweight or being unattractive. It's the lowest common denominator, like, mean-spirited humour that, like, you'd expect from something like Illumination. And, like, it's just such a lame blow from a company like Disney, so known for their kind of universal positive message. The dad character is so bad, and his half-assed apology is so ridiculous. Like, it's the worst apology I've seen since Colin Ballinger's apology earlier this year. That says everything. I don't know how a grown adult can be so oblivious to the abuse that he's putting his own son through. I can't fathom him, and I think like it's such a bad message. The film is not funny. The jokes, like Home on the Range, are just lame and really aimed at children. The plot is also way too strange and over the top. Like, for me. Also, I just don't want to be too hard on the animation as it's their first attempt. The arrogance of Disney thinking they can make something Pixar level without their help was just embarrassing, because this is what they made. The character design is actually particularly bad. It's, like, none of the characters look like they should be in the world. If anything, I'm hopeful that Disney learned their lesson with this one. It's such a fascinating failure and really could have its own 20-minute essay down the line, but I really don't think it's worth it, because I think everyone knows why this film was so bad, and it deserves every bit of criticism it receives. It's so bad, 2 out of 10 for me. Okay, 59th now, and I'm going to give you a short little history lesson for you. During the 1940s, due to obvious reasons, Disney didn't really have the necessary funds to make full films, so had to resort to these package-like films to keep the company afloat. And unfortunately, these films were, how can I put it, mediocre at best. And for me, the worst one was actually The Three Caballeros. I don't see why people like this. This is often regarded as being the second best package film. I don't get it. It starts off okay. You got Donald Duck unboxing these gifts and watching some okay kind of harmless short. I actually quite like the Penguin one. It was kind of chill, and it kind of made me forget that I was watching a Disney package film. They bring back Jose Canseco, and they add this new member, Pasito, and I'll admit the song is good, and the visual clearly had a bit of budget in them, which the other package films lack, which is nice, but where it goes wrong is in the last 20 minutes, where the trio mix with live-action humans, and Donald Duck is horny, and deaf for women. Do I need to elaborate on why Donald Duck being horny in a Disney film? That doesn't work. It's just a given. Also, the pace and energy that this film works at is insane. I was just so confused my whole time watching this, thinking, what the hell was I saying? It's bonker. And unlike Saludos Amigos, I didn't learn anything about Mexican culture, really. So it just doesn't work. It's only above the other two because of, like, at least it had some fun sequences and, like, it didn't offend me like the bottom two, but really, it's a 2.5 out of 10 and it's really bad. Okay, 58th now, and we're back with another package film. Don't worry, we'll be through them. There's only 6 of them. We're on Fun and Fantasy 3. Now, this is commonly accepted to be the worst package film, and I can see why, to be honest. I'm not saying this is an underrated gem or anything. I just think it's slightly better than The Three Caballeros. The other package film up to this point always had, like, an ensemble of shorts. So, if one didn't work, it didn't really matter, because at least you would like the next one. Like, in something like Melody Time and Make My Music, not every short works, but certain ones do, which make it more credible. But for this one, they decided to only have 2 shorts, and neither short is great. Bongo the Bear is an absolute slog and completely drawn out. It's bizarre. There's a whole song about bears slapping each other to show affection. What a great message. It's not entertaining and really doesn't work in the slightest. And the other short isn't much better. It's Mickey and the Beanstalk. And okay, like, it's fine, but it doesn't really exactly set the world alight, does it? Although Woody the Giant is great, and you can see why he became a stemple part of the Mickey franchise, the worst part isn't even the short. So they wanted to have some connective tissue between the shorts. So they have Jiminy Cricket as a narrator, which is okay. He has some fun bits with a record player. However, for the second short, for some insane reason, decided to add this famous ventriloquist at the time, Edgar Bergen. These two dummies and a little girl who just continue to make really not funny quips and interrupt the Mickey short. They weren't as bad as I thought they'd be, and I was really warned about these going into this, but they don't help make the film better, and they bring it down. But I would take these guys over Horny Donald. It's a real shame that Walt Disney's last performance as Mickey Mouse was kind of this whatever. 2.5 out of 10. 57th down is Dinosaur. More like Dinabore. Am I right? My days, that's the worst joke I think I've ever done on this channel. I'm genuinely struggling to say anything about this film. It's the most middle-of-the-road film you'll ever get. There's nothing here. It's the most cliche characters with the most cliche story. This film isn't Disney level. To release this after the 90s, where Disney created magical stories with iconic characters and went to levels you never believed they could, this just feels like a bad rip-off of Disney. I honestly think Reef at Finding Nemo rip-off is probably better than Dinosaur. I'm not joking. The main character, Oldar, and I actually did have to Google his name. I didn't remember what he was called. He's your typical raged, unconventionally natural leader who's good, and Kron is the classic, not gonna back down or be proven wrong villain. There's a love interest. Who's the love interest? Who's out of nowhere, is pregnant at the end. There's the old wise experienced Dinosaur. The villain who redeems himself. Oh, his whole film is this group of dinosaurs walking and walking and walking and walking to find this paradise, which means the backgrounds are awful because they're trying to go for a paradise, so not even the visuals are good. And talking of the visual, look, I'm sure this was impressive visually in 2000, but it has aged like milk. Like, it really has. And the characters have terrible movement and expression. The film also is very much aimed at kids and nothing else, and I could see myself when I was 7 actually liking this movie, and I don't think I would have liked the 4 films below it, so... But there's nothing for the rest of the family here. It's a 3 out of 10. I want to move on. 56 now, and I hate to put this one here. I really wanted to like it, but it's the Black Cauldron. This film is notorious for being Disney's biggest box office bomb, and is famous for almost killing the company if it wasn't for leadership changes and the Grace Mount Detective's success, and the company could have sank. And I was really hoping to find out that this film was just some underappreciated, poorly marketed gem, but as it's kind of developed this cult following over time, but oh my god, it's so bad. Now, I must say visually, this film is actually stunning, and the animation is on another level and so ambitious, and you can see the upgrade in budget that this film had. But what doesn't work is everything else. Let's start with the main character. He's so arrogant, without having anything, actually nothing to back it up with. You'd think that throughout the film that he'd mature and learn that he was wrong, and especially after losing the pig because of his own arrogance. But he doesn't change, and if anything, what does he even do? And he doesn't change ever. He makes a stupid bargain to lose the cauldron, and he doesn't even beat the Horn King. The Horn King loses because of his own stupidity, and I'm talking of the Horn King. I'm gonna say, it's Disney's worst villain. He's worse than the Yodeler guy from Home on the Range. He's so one-dimensional, no motive, so stereotypical and not clever. He does the worst cliche as well, of leaving the hero tied up to let the killing device kill him, and wow, what a surprise! They escaped. This film also must have Disney's most obnoxious comic relief. I'm not googling their name, I refuse. His voice is so annoying, and they give him this sacrifice in the end that wasn't earned, and it was just so false, and they brought him back, so nothing even matters. Like, I honestly hate that they bring him back. Like, it would have actually been a worthy thing for him to do, considering he was an asshole for the first 3/3 of the film, but... what is so disappointing about the Black Cauldron is the book has so much potential to be adapted. And apart from the stunning animation, nothing works. Also, the pig just disappears in the film. I've got to point this out. It literally was such a major plot voice. It runs away and we never see it again. What the hell happened to the pig? Honestly, 3 out of 10 for me. Probably one of the most bad films I've ever seen. Okay, 55th now, and this will probably be unpopular. I feel like there's not much disagreement, apart from the weird Black Cauldron fans from the placement so far, but this one could spark outrage. It might be unpopular. I'm going Fantasia 2000. Okay, I'm going to be real. We'll talk about the OG Fantasia kind of later, but this franchise just isn't for me. Look, I can respect it, but it's not something I'd seek to watch again. This film for me just doesn't even hold a candle to the first one, unfortunately. Whereas the old OG had like this one narrator who clearly was all about the animation. This film throws in a bunch of trendy celebrities of the time who they can be very hit or miss, unfortunately, and in a lot of places and a lot of the cameos are so dated as watching it back in 2023, and the actual shorts as well can be quite hit or miss. I really like the city short. I thought the animation was so creative, and I got so much out of that one. And I think the last short and the well one were both really stunning visually in their own right. Having the tin toy one was such a poor kind of combination of music and animation. The flamingo one was fun, but it's not Fantasia Noah. And the Noah art short is just stupid. How did they not see each other once in the 40 days they were on it? I know it's so picky, but it just wasn't for me, that short. The first one actually had some moments that really took me aback, and I was like, wow, this is stunning. This never really did it for me. The best short in this was genuinely The Sorcerer's Apprentice, and I feel like that is so telling. Unfortunately, this one just didn't do it for me, and I really want to like Fantasia 2000, but 3.5 out of 10 for me. Okay, 54th, and this is going to be the shortest segment. It's Melody Time. More like boring time. Honestly, this is the most forgettable out of all 61 films. It's not awful, there's nothing offensive, but apart from the cowboy short, which was pretty neat and a bit of fun, nothing stands out. It's such a whatever film. There was a Free Caballero callback, which I hated because it reminded me of that really bad film, The Free Caballeros, which I really thought I was done with, but that was really bad and out of place. Do I have to keep talking about this film? There's nothing here. So it's probably a better film than probably the next 5. But like, it's just so like I've forgotten everything that happened in it. Like, if you have it at gunpoint, I couldn't name you what happened in all the shorts in this, and I only saw it about a month and a half ago. So that says everything I feel about Melody Time. 53rd now, and our first Silver Age entry, and of course it's the Sword of the Stone. This film is so weird for me. And my big issue, and I'm going to cut to the chase with this one, I'm not going to go around. This is meant to be a King Arthur story. A rags to riches tale, but nothing is earned. Arthur is a screw-up at the start, and still at the end. There is zero evidence in this movie that Merlin's lessons had any effect on him. Arthur at the end just kind of out of nowhere pulls the sword out of the hat and doesn't even want to be the king. There's no journey, no arc. Merlin's lessons just feel like things the animators wanted to animate as well. It's like, oh, let's have him be a squirrel and have a female squirrel give attention to him. Oh, let's have them escape in the water. They feel like filler, and I don't get a lot out of. And it's trying to be educational, but nothing valuable is actually learned. This film could have been infinitely better if Arthur would have used Merlin's lesson to help beat Madame Mim. Like, he tries to encourage Merlin, but he doesn't really do anything. He just sits there and watch it. It isn't an arc. It's the worst coming-of-age story I've ever seen. It feels like it wanted to be a King Arthur film. They went on a tangent with, like, these Merlin stuff and Madame Mim and, like, these powers, and it was kind of fun. And then they remember they were making a King Arthur film and had to quickly change course, like, in the last 10 seconds. Merlin himself I find entertaining, and I do appreciate that he's a flawed character, even at his wise age, and that he's still learning. I think that was kind of a nice kind of sentiment. His owl I find funny as well, and I've seen a lot of people not like that character, but I actually quite enjoyed that owl character. Madam Mim is a great foil to Merlin, however she's severely underutilised on a villain, and unfortunately just isn't given enough screen time. So I think this film is so low because of what it could have been. I think Disney doing King Arthur could have had endless possibility. They could have done such a good coming of age story, and I feel like they did it maybe a few decades later. They really could have, but unfortunately, this isn't like a Home of the Rings film. The idea was bad. This is the opposite. The idea was really good, but it felt like it wanted to be 3 different movies and nothing worked. Also, the Arthur voice changes halfway through the film because the first kid hit puberty, and then they tried to replace him, and they replaced him too late. Like, at that point, you should have just kept the first voice actor, because it was like, it felt like 3 different people were playing him. Okay, 40-second now, and this might be the first big take. Prepare for this. Is Frozen 2. And before you say it, no, I'm not a typical Frozen hater. I just think the more I think about Frozen 2, the worse it continues to get. The film had so much going for it, but just at such an insane pace and so ambitious, but at the end it just feels empty. It feels like so much is trying to happen that actually nothing happens in the end. Nothing is given any weight or time to sit with. You just kind of like, things happen. And like things are just thrown at you, and there's potentially interesting ideas, but nothing gets like kind of followed through on. It's the same issue that I have with The Rise of Skywalker, apart from the actual reveals in that film didn't work either. The film had so much focus that the actual promising elements are really tarnished and hindered. Elsa really carries this film so much, and I think the direction this film takes is great. I think the focus on the roots of Elsa's powers and adding more lore was the right kind of idea to take a Frozen sequel, and Elsa's story arc is actually quite great, however, the other characters don't work. Olaf is in this too much. Like, he's always stealing potentially emotional moments, a big scene. The biggest example of the scene where he recaps the first film, it's such a bad placement for a joke, and I feel like people really liked that joke and found it funny. I didn't see it, and it's so obvious it's a fake out death, and it's not going to be permanent. And Kristoff, oh my god, he's even worse than I. He's given the Bernard treatment, and literally his only arc is supposed to Honor, and then they make Honor out of character just to delay this thing. It's so annoying. The new characters are all interesting, but are given nothing to do. The film has no focus and will just drop characters. It literally leaves Kristoff lost in the woods for like the whole film. The film's characters are also too intelligent. Like, some of the leaps in logic made at points are insane. Especially Honor realised she had to break the dam, but the film has no time to make the characters come to these decisions rationally. The animation in the film is amazing, but you expect that from Disney in 2019, and that was kind of a given, so I feel like there's no extra points here. The songs can be hit or miss. Show Yourself is amazing. Next Right Thing is good, but would have been so much more impactful with better built up, and I love Lost in the Woods as kind of a standalone, but it makes no sense in context, and I feel like people don't like to admit that. The Olaf song is terrible. Into the Unknown is nowhere near Let It Go, but for me the worst element is the ending. So it's discovered that the Arendelle betrayed the Northuldra, and the dam is a curse. So I think Arendelle should have been destroyed. It would have been such a powerful message to kids that actions do have actual consequences, and everything was out there. It's not like anyone was gonna die, but no, Elsa stops it in the final hour. Nothing matters. I think you should really watch this film's documentary, because I feel like it so tends to how rushed the film was. It needed more time. They had something here, and I really think Frozen 2 could have been better than the first one, but it was so rushed, and not enough effort was put into developing the key elements, and it felt they had to include everyone. They had to do all these things, and they had to find something for everyone to do, that it just, nothing really worked in the end. This is a 4 out of 10, unfortunately, for me. Okay, we're now at the bottom 10, which is quite nice. Let's see if it gets better. Oh, for fuck's sake. 51st now, it's Ralph Breaks the Internet. I'm going to be real with you, I didn't hate this film at first. The story was okay, the characters were decent, the laughs were okay, yeah, it was dated in places, but the princesses were great, and when you watch this on the same day as the first, you see the level of character assassination. Like, for Vanellope, and even better with Ralph, but I just don't get it. For Vanellope especially, for someone so desperate to erase her, to get bored of it after 6 years is just so strange and goes back on everything that her character was in the first film. And Ralph is even worse. It's embarrassing. He's a man-child who is so obsessed with this 10-year-old. He's so dumbed down so much in this film. And the film's message about YouTube is so frustrating. They show that with minimal effort and following trends, you can just make thousands in, like, they make 32,000, I think it is, in one night. That's not a good method. They never focus on burnout or commitment or time that YouTube takes, or instead they show the comments as the only negative and suggesting you shouldn't read your own comments, and that is frustrating. It's so annoying to have 30-year-old tell you what they think is right about YouTube. And the Ralph twist, I know it's been said, but it's so out of character. And it just, also for the two of them to go turbo with no reference of it and just fix it Felix then that he'll cover is so lazy. And it goes against the #1 rule of the first film. However, the film is not as bad as some say. The new characters I actually really like. I think Spamley, Shank, yes, a great character. I really like the princess stuff. It's so genius and effective, and A Place Called Slaughter Race is so good. So it's not as bad, but it got so much worse on rewatch. Also, where were Felix and Calhoun? They set up an amazing plotline for them and then just dropped it above Frozen 2. Because I think this film at least delivered on what it was trying to do, whereas Frozen 2 didn't. Okay, we're in the top 50 now. And another package film. We got Make My Music. Now, I have beef with this film so much. It's the only Walt Disney animated studio film for some reason that isn't on Disney Plus, and I'm not gonna go, oh my god, why is it? Is it because of the racism? Apparently I have looked this up and it's to do with the licensing of Peter and the Wolf. I wasn't prepared to buy a DVD of this film, to be honest, so I had to watch a really low quality YouTube video of it, and in part, so I don't know if I can properly rate this, but was it really worth all that effort? Not really. It's like Melody Time, but like a bit better because it's got the whale short, which was really good and really memorable, and I really remember that one, but it's just there. I want to move on. 4 out of 10. Okay, 49th now, another package film. Just one more to go after that. We got Saludos Amigos. I feel like this gives me a good time to establish, a lot of older Disney films, unfortunately, due to being 60, 70 and even 80 years old in some cases, there's a lot of, I guess you could say things that were of a different time, and I feel like Disney do realise this, and I'm glad that they don't cut out these moments, but many old Disney films do have some severe racist elements, which, of course, at the time they weren't a big deal, but now in hindsight some of them are really hard to watch, but I'm going to address these and bring them up, obviously, when I get to them. And they're never okay, and they never will be. But like I've said, I'm glad that Disney keep these bits in and understand that they made mistakes in the past. And Saludos Amigos is an unfortunate case of it. But I like this more than the other package films, apart from the obvious ones the best, because it feels like there's a structure to this one. It feels like there's a purpose to it. I feel like they're trying to incorporate some kind of educational value, which was kind of neat. Especially considering, I feel like, the time, and I think Jose and Donald actually work off each other really well here and play off each other in a fun way. The shorts here are better, especially the plain one. That plain one is just, it's just that good, plain simple. And I think, let's stop kidding myself, I like this one the most because it was only 40 minutes, so it was over quicker. That's probably why I liked it, to be honest. 4 out of 10 for me. 48 for now, and this might be a bit controversial, but I'm gonna say it. It's the Aristocrats. I don't like this film. It got so much worse for me. This film was so strange in concept. You got this old woman who leaves her will to get these cats, leaves her will to her cats over her butler, so he tries to kill them. This film was the first about Walt, and you can see it. It's a really bland journey film with pretty boring obstacles and characters along the way, but for me, where this film doesn't work is with Edgar. He's pathetic, and honestly, he's really sympathetic. Like, he's a terrible threat, and they try and make him a threat. You feel bad for him. Like, come on, if you were, like, put yourself in his shoes, you'd feel for him. Also, the dogs people forget just attack Edgar for no reason. They don't know his plan. They don't know he's kidnapping cats. They literally just attack the guy for no reason. And they bring him back for another scene, which is also pointless. They add nothing. But I actually don't mind the romance here. I feel like it feels natural. I like how Amalia has to prove himself, however. I don't like the privilege Duchess receives. I feel like she gets the best of both worlds, and I think the way the story went, it would have made more sense for the cats to actually stay and go rogue. I feel like they don't give enough tension and actually repercussions for what Duchess is doing. She's just sliding through with her kittens and getting the best of both worlds, and I don't like that. I do like how they make the kittens very accurate to children. They do play fight, they're not perfect. Although I think Marie gets a bit too much love, to be honest. I'm going to be honest, the songs are really strong. Everybody Wants to Be a Cat did deliver so much if you remove the Chinese stereotype. And I think Thomas O'Malley's song was absolutely incredible as well. The geese really annoy me. They felt like so much filler, and they had an uncle who they were taking the mick at the fact he was drunk instead of raising awareness of the badness of getting drunk, which was, this is the 1950s, so what do you expect? But I was expecting a bit more. I'm going to be real with that. The mouse was an okay character, I guess. And the ending was fun, and I liked Edgar's demise at the end. But it does not hold up, and it's definitely the worst animal-centric Disney film for me. I'm going to go... I think this was one that I liked a lot when I was younger, but I feel like now, rewatching it, a lot more issues came to light. And I'm going to say 4.5 out of 10. But it's not as offensive. Okay, 47 now. Wow, Disney can't do sequel. This is officially the highest sequel on this list, and it's 47. It's The Rescuers Down Under. I see many people put this one actually above the first film, which I disagree with. This film is something of a massive big black sheep, being kind of the oddball in the Renaissance, and I feel like it isn't a Renaissance film, but you have to include it because The Little Mermaid has to be there, so I feel like this film is just such a middle-of-the-road adventure film that just had the Rescuers name thrown on it because... I know it was meant to be a rescue sequel from the beginning, but honestly, Bernard and Bianca don't add anything until the last 20 minutes. The plot of this film is very basic. Evil guy wants birds to kidnap a kid. He's okay as a villain. I feel like he's got some threatening bits, but nothing to write home about. The kid in this film is okay. I like that he's more intelligent than the average child, but could you at least got someone remotely Australian? He is... honestly, I'm, more Australian than him. They literally just got, any guy to... They didn't even try and make him Australian. They add a new mouse and throw in, a love triangle, which is just so unnecessary. And that's Bernard's big plot line of trying to Bianca to marry him. And it's just, such a boring trope. And again, it's like the Kristoff thing. They make Bianca act out a character to delay the thing. And it's But I feel like there are elements which I really like. I feel like kind of the scene when he's trapped in a cage and he's got to try and escape, and you get that critter thing, and he escapes. He was really funny. I think some of the sequences visually are breathtaking. You can see the improvement of animation from the first to the second one, but I think maybe that's why people like this. But for me, it was just a really weird film that wasn't very good. 4.5. 46 now. Wow, wouldn't you know? It's the first Rescuers. I didn't plan that on my mum's life. It just feels like this for me. The Rescuers is fine. It's a clever concept for a picture. You've got these mice who help people in trouble, and the visuals are very interesting. I really like Medusa, actually. Originally she was supposed to be Corella, and yeah, she's kind of the dollar store version. However, she's still a really fun, batshit insane, kind of wild character. I really like the kid, actually, Penny. She's sweet, and you sympathise for her. And there's some action set pieces here which are actually really great. And the side group who kind of come in to help are really fun. My issues are actually with the leads. They're really boring, to be honest. And their romance doesn't feel natural, but they don't ruin the film. The slapstick at a point can be great, and the film was a good experience. However, this segment is shorter than others just because, it's just kind of there. It's a middle-of-the-road film, and it was important at the time, because it was one of kind of the first ones that had no involvement from What's Forever, but yeah. 5 out of 10, move on. 45th now, and it's time for Strange World. What a bizarre turnout, honestly. I wish I could say that this film was some overlooked gem, and that it was actually really good. Unfortunately, I just can't say that. Strange World I just find this so forgettable. So let's kind of start with the big things that everyone kind of talks about. Let's start with the LGBTQ representation, and that's kind of the big elephant in the room. And I feel it shouldn't be, but you know what I like about it is it isn't overblown. They treat his crush as if it was a girl. Like, there isn't a forced homophobic character. I thought for sure they were gonna kind of the granddad to be homophobic in some way, and in reality he probably should be, considering, you know. But you know, I'm glad that they don't. But the annoying thing is that they don't actually give him and this boy enough actual development. Like, they make jokes, they tease him about the film, but they don't let the boy come on the adventure. And it's still the kind of thing of like, oh, we can edit it out for certain markets. Like, it's a step in the right direction, so I'm glad that, and I like the representation, but I think it's a lot better than before when it's like a blink and you miss it thing. This is like, no, like, this is a part of him, but it's not his whole character either, so I appreciate it. The environmental message is okay. I think it's a bit spelled out, but it's okay. And I think the father aspect of the film, it almost works, but it's so predictable. It's been seen so many times, and I feel like that's the issue with Strange World. I feel like if Strange World came out in 1962, we'd be a bit more forgiving to it, but I just think you've seen this kind of thing, and the family trauma aspect was just done so much better, and like somewhat like Encanto, which we'll get to way later. It just isn't doing anything new. I'm glad that the girl wasn't a twist villain and that she was just naive. The animation is gorgeous, really, and it goes to levels I've just never seen it before. But I feel like when it comes to visuals now, you kind of expect that from Disney films, so because of the budget they're given and like the production they have, and like, you got to give it credit, and I think the world is probably really good, but Strange World was really fine. I've seen people call it really awful or terrible film. It was not terrible, but it was just kind of there. 5 out of 10. 44th now, we're finally on the last package film, thank the Lord. We've got Adventures of Ikabod and Mr. Toad. This is the best package film by far, and I feel like no one really argues otherwise. It's the only one you could probably call a good film, and this is probably the first film on this list that I would call a good film. Like Fun and Fantasy 3, this one had 2 stories. However, the difference was that the stories was actually good, and they didn't throw in any dummies or horny Donald Duck, so it's instantly better than the others. First, let's start with the Mr. Toad. This 40-minute kind of section is such a guilty pleasure for me. I love it. It's a blast. The courtroom stuff is so much fun and such a great kind of spoof and kind of mockbuster kind of thing. I love Mr. Toad's like lack of arc and how much of an asshole he is. It's just so great, and the twist with the betrayal is great. The climax is also great, and the slapstick is so on point in this film, and it's so much fun. I love the world here, and I wish it was a full picture because I feel like the Winnie the Pooh deserved a full this film. It's not great writing, but again, like as a kind of section, it's just really fun. And as a subjective ranking, I really loved it. I have a few more issues with the Headless Horseman story, which may surprise you, as I feel like comic consensus that it's like the Ikabod story. Like, I feel like the story is a bit tedious. We never get to know how this girl feels. We have these two people like competing against each other, and we never get the girl's thoughts and feelings. But then again, this is the 40s, and you know, you forget Ikabod is a silent character. The amount of personality we get of him is actually insane, and I like that Ikabod is flawed and unlikable, and that kind of contributes to his demise in the end. And the song, you know, the song about the Headless Horseman is really great, and the whole Headless Horseman stuff does not disappoint. So, for what this film was, I actually had a really great time with it, but it is a 5 out of 10 for me. But, you know, if it was how much I enjoyed the film, this probably is in the top 10, because I really didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. Okay, 43rd, and I've gone for The Lady of the Tramp. When you think of this film, you remember the spaghetti scene, and yeah, that's kind of all it is. Nah, the film's okay. The big issue for me is the film is so famous for like this magical, beautiful romance, but said romance is out of nowhere and underplayed, and that's being kind, which is weird. The pace is weird too. The opening is really drawn out, like it actually takes forever for Lady and the Tramp to meet, and then there's so much action is thrown into the last 10 minutes, and it's just so out of nowhere. The time just skyrockets. I do like some elements. I like Lady's character. I like how Tramp, in the end, has to actually prove himself. And I feel like it's a very mature kind of romance. I'll give them that. At least she has a reason to like him, and it doesn't feel like... It's actually more progressive than like a Sleeping Beauty, which came out after that. I liked Shelley and the Lost Dogs, but it was a bit out of place, and the Siamese cats are weird, and it's even, and like even ignoring the racism, I find it even weirder that they just disappear from the film. They get one scene which is good, like now, but like if you think about it, they should have actually been a bigger role, I thought. And the Beaver, I love the Beaver though, he's iconic, love that guy. But this film is really overrated, and I'm gonna say it. And I think like it was nowhere near the level that I remembered it being. So 5 out of 10 for Lady and the Tramp. 42nd now. It's gonna be Bolt. I struggle with this one. First and foremost, the concept is so interesting and different, and I rate that bit. However, the execution is really a mixed bag. Let's start off with what actually works. The heart of the picture works so well, which I think is important. I believe the relationship Bolt and Penny have, and I think the climax is so powerful, even if it is a bit overblown and over the top. I love the film looks at kind of the reality of the kind of the TV business, and I love how quickly Bolt is replaced, and like no one's really raised any flags, and stuff is great. I actually really like the cat character actually, and how there's like little footprints throughout the film hinting at a backstory, only for it to finally be revealed. So why don't I like it so much? Well, the journey is really generic and not engaging, really. The hamster character always annoyed me, even when I was young, and still does. And I'm going to be real, I'm going to say it, Bolt himself isn't great. I feel like John Travolta is just miscasted in this role, and I feel like his whole Buzz Lightyear arc is just really overdone by now, and so overall, like, it was a step in the right direction considering the time period. It was definitely an upgrade on the likes of Chicken Little, Home on the Range, but it didn't quite get to the level of some like a Meet the Robinsons or Princeton's Welcome Me. 5 out of 10. 41st now, and I've gone for Oliver and Company. This is a weird one. To take the story of Oliver and put it into like a New York aesthetic could be a cool idea. However, the aesthetic is so underutilized and just feels pointless. I think the film is fun at points, and I feel like that one song, Why Should I Worry, is an absolute bop, and I actually really like the characters in the film. Like, I feel like the dog crew, yeah, they may be one-dimensional, however, they play off each other well. However, what doesn't work is how quickly the dogs accept Oliver. He scratches one big dog's nose and he's immediately accepted, and the next day they're doing rescue missions for him. I just don't buy the relationship between Oliver and Dodger enough, and I feel like they should have made Dodger maybe more Oliver's age, like in the original plays. And I think that would have made it more believable. The third act is engaging, it's a lot of fun. However, the villain is such a boring, stern, ruthless mob boss whose most memorable attribute is the gruesome death, and he gets, and I feel like that says there all is to know about the guy. There's also a posh dog in the film who I could do about. He has a forced romance with one of the dogs, which I can't believe is actually a thing they did in a film. I've been very negative on this film, but it's just quite entertaining. I feel like the Jenny stuff is actually really effective. So, it's not great, but I enjoy it. 5 out of 10. Okay, we're into the top 40 now, and it's Brother Bear. Or, as I like to call it, Miss Potential Bear. I know everyone says it, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, but the first 20 minutes had so much promise, and was so emotional, showcasing themes of responsibility and family, and it's powerful. I don't actually hate that he becomes a bear. I feel like it's a great concept to make Kenai learn from his ways, but once he turns into a bear, it just falls down. It's so predictable. We know what's going to happen, and it becomes more childish. They throw in these moves who are unfunny and unmemorable, and the Kenai Coda relationship is okay, but should have been a lot better, I feel like. There were some great scenes, like when Kenai puts 2 and 2 together and realises he killed Coda's mum, and that bit is great. I've seen people say that, like, Kenai took too long to answer, but I feel like he knew in the back of his mind, but was so much in denial and so egotistical that he couldn't accept the fact that he'd actually killed this bear's mother. But I think it could have been so much more in reality. Okay, I need to talk about Phil Collins. So this film and Tarzan, instead of using traditional songs sung by the film's characters for some reason, brings in, of all people, Phil Collins to sing the songs that are vaguely relating to what's going on. And I feel like this was a lot more effective in Tarzan, but we'll get to that later. But with this film, each song gets worse on the lap. The first one is good, and it just goes down, down, down here from there. But the worst offender of the song is the moment in the film Kenai must admit to Coda what he had did. And It's the most emotional high point of the film. It's the big moment where King Eye comes clean about the horrible sins he committed. And what did they do? Play a goddamn corny Phil Collins song over it. What were they thinking? I just can't fathom why they thought that was a good placement of a song. It ruins what could have been the best scene in the film. And because that, I dropped this film a whole 3 pages. It was so baffling for me. Overall, Brother Bear is a film I liked a lot more than I thought I would, but it's so frustrating because I feel like this could have been the best post-Renaissance 2000 film, but mistakes and poor choices make it only a 5.5 out of 10. Okay, 39th round is Pocahontas. Another frustrating one for me. Now, the biggest issue I've got to say immediately is how this film depicts that the natives and British were just as bad as each other, and fighting was going to get them nowhere. But do I need to elaborate why that's problematic? I can't believe Disney would try and make that, like, it's such a bad retelling. And, like, you could say it's just a fairy tale, however that's not the case. Like, why would they use a real famous figure like Pocahontas' name? I'll tell you why, because after Beauty and the Beast, Disney got that Best Picture nomination. Disney believed they could make a winner in Pocahontas. They believed this was the big film, that The Lion King was just some little appetizer that they weren't confident in. Oh, the irony. This film is so bizarre. It's trying to be all serious and mature, but then throws in these animal hijinks that kills the tone every time. It's strange. The main couple I think are better than some give credit for. However, the romance is underdeveloped. The villain in the film, Ratcliffe, is so poor. He's so one-dimensional in his search for gold. He's just not very compelling. The songs are hit and miss. I feel like Colours of the Wind carries this film so hard, and it's really the only reason to actually watch it. Visually, vocally, and lyrically stunning. I love the song. The others are either okay, like Just Run the Riverbend or My Mine, or just plain laughable like Savages, with lyrics so on the nose and dumbs down, you can't take it seriously. They're different from us, that makes them bad. Like, it's literally like looking you straight in the eyes and spelling out to you the message of the film. It's so embarrassing. But I will never forgive this film for cutting If I Never Knew You. One of Disney's honestly best love songs. It's definitely a top 5 one for me. It would have added so much to the relationship this film had. There's also serious tonal issues in the film. There's a scene of a tree whipping 2 men. A couple of minutes later, there's a death scene. And by the way, that death scene was not earned at all. Cocoon was an asshole until his death. However, you may wonder why that this is so much higher than other films, as I've been so negative. It's mainly because it's just a visually intriguing film so much. The animation is breathtaking, and I actually really like the 2 leads. As controversial as that may be. Is it Oscar worthy? No, it couldn't be further from that truth. But it's not a bottom 10 Disney film like many will say. Honestly, 5.5 out of 10 for me. Okay, 39th now, and it's time for Big Hero 6. I really have nothing to say about this movie. It's fine. I like the setup and the world of this combination of San Francisco and Tokyo. It's clever, but they don't do anything with it. The characters are quirky and fun, but don't get a lot to do. The opening I'm really digging, but after Tadashi dies, it just kind of trails off, honestly. And the greed bits are good, and I like how it's handled, but the actual story lacks. I'm gonna say it. Baymax is a little overrated, and that's not going to be liked by a lot of people. He gets some laughs, and he's a good character, but I think he's far from Disney's best comic relief, as some would kind of claim. But the biggest problem with the film is the villain. I know I'm a broken record, but he's a manic man-child with an insane plan that is so not intelligent. The twist villain is just lazy and poorly incorporated. It would have been so much easier to just have Craig be the villain. He already had a reason to be the villain. Like, it would make such more sense than this guy who is unreasonable and just not as sympathetic as the film makes out to be. I wish this film was more character focused, because I feel like all of these guys feel so one-dimensional, unfortunately. The film has some good action bits, and the climax is clever, and I really like how they kind of beat him. Some of the emotional elements with like this Doshi death is great, and I think the jokes from those parts do work in the film as well. It is just sort of there in the end though. It's the most modern the road, so I'm going to give it the first 6 out of 10. 37th now, and it's Winnie the Pooh 2011. So, how was the final 2D film? I'm gonna say I honestly love this film as a kid, and I love this whole franchise. I really like the simplicity in this franchise. It's escapism, it's timeless, and the Disney version of these characters are so like just fun and memorable and iconic. But anyway, as for this 2011 film, it was actually quite strange. It's like kind of like it's a weird one. It's just so short of being an hour long in full, and whereas the other films had like many stories, like the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, or kind of like something like Piglet's Big Movie, this film decided to have 3 stories that overlap each other. Let's start with the main plot. After failing of understanding the note, the cast believe that Christopher Robin has been stolen by some creature called the Black Sun, which you can obviously get what was actually trying to be portrayed there. It's a classic Winnie the Pooh formula that they do in Pooh's Grand Adventure, of Owl thinking he knows how to kind of read a note and he just doesn't. However, I feel like the direct DVD sequel kind of did this kind of thing better. Like I said with Pooh's Grand Adventure, like, it's funny, but it's not that great of a plot. And the other is Eeyore Missing a Tail, which brings some fun visual bits and a funny twist at the end, but again, it's nothing to write home about. And finally, Pooh is hungry. What a plot line! What a shot! Winnie the Pooh wants honey. I could have come up with that. I feel like where this film works is in the animation. They take full advantage of how far 2D had come, and they make some amazing sequences, like the Everything is Honey. And honestly, like, at times, the animation in the film is almost too good for the world of Winnie the Pooh. Like, it. And the new cast are just as good as the old one for me. I especially do actually like Tom Kenny as Rabbit, and Jim Cummings, of course, is great as Winnie the Pooh and Tigger. And the songs are actually really good. You could have easily been mistaken that they could have been the Sherman Brothers. Like, they're so good. One more thing, they decided to make Owl really like cranky in the film and almost antagonistic, and I didn't like that. I feel like to make a Winnie the Pooh character selfish or egotistical, I know that kind of was always Owl's thing, but I feel like they went too far in that front. For me, it's one of the weaker Winnie the Pooh films, but it's still a 6 out of 10. 36, and now it's time for Fantasia. Look, I'd be lying if I said this was one of my favourites, but honestly I have such admiration for this film. For your third film to do something this bold, this brave, it's just such an accomplishment that really makes any review of the film pointless. In reality, it's just such a shame that this film flopped. It's art, it's passion, it's feeling, the music is so carefully chosen, it just so genuinely works and complements the work. Unfortunately, certain elements haven't aged too well, especially with the Dinosaur short, due to, information that was actually known at the time. And it's quite funny to kind of look at certain aspects of that now. But, however, I actually really loved that Dinosaur short. I feel like it was an amazing idea for having the right and forward life. And the Night and Bold Mountain is notorious, and for a reason, it's so thrilling and it's so powerful, and the Swords Apprentice is so magic in every way. The only difference is solos, unfortunately. I just take a narrative feature over something like this, but I have so much respect for this, and I can understand people who actually put this one of their top film. But for me, unfortunately, it has to be in the middle of the road, 6 out of 10. 36 now, and another one you potentially won't like. I've gone from Pinocchio. No, I'm not lying. I'm gonna be honest. After the Guillermo del Toro version, this one just pales in comparison. Let's start with what I really liked. The world is so much fun and just bonkers. Like, you just kind of roll with it. Like, there's things that don't make sense, like Honest John and Gideon just walking about and strolling, but that's just kind of the world it is. Like, it's really fun. I really like Pinocchio as a character, actually. He's great, he's realistic, he's a naive child that actually does learn from mistakes and actually learns to be a real boy, and I think that arc is really well done. However, I don't often feel it is fleshed out as much as it could have been. Like, it's good, but I feel like it could have been great. Also, the famous nose growing thing that everyone knows Pinocchio from is actually only in one scene, and that actually shocked me. This film is definitely what I call a shenanigans film, and I use this tagline throughout the ranking because I feel like there's a few Disney films where there isn't really a plot, and it's more constant obstacles, and this happened, so this happened, after that this happened, and at the end you get a climax. But also, I'm going to be honest, Jiminy Cricket, he's not all that. He's just not a very good mentor. And he never does anything to justify that gift at the end. I was so livid. But I really like the other characters. I love Geppetto, and I wish he was expanded on more, honestly, because I feel like he was really good for what he's given. John and Gideon are such a great slimy double act, and Stromboni is a great villain, and the Blue Fairy is iconic for a reason. The songs are also timeless. I mean, come on. This film has the song. When You Wish Upon a Star is Disney and everything it stands for, and, you know, even something like I Got No Strings is an absolute blast as well. This film is just brilliant and actually so engaging. 6.5 out of 10. Okay, 34th now, and it's Sleeping Beauty. This is a strange film, to say the very least. In some ways they went forward, and in other ways they went backwards, and we'll see. They went forward by having the prince and princess actually properly meet. However, the two leads couldn't be more bland. People like Prince Philip because of his involvement in the climax. However, he doesn't say a word during the whole thing. He's so boring and bordering on creepy with some of his antics of Aurora, which, I mean, she's more interesting slightly, but, like, she's actually more interesting when she's asleep, and I feel like that says everything. I really like how competent the characters in this film, though, are, and how they are actually able to cleverly outwit Maleficent, but what I don't like is how Aurora actually touched it. It feels so forced and out of character for the fairies to just leave her. Talking of the fairies, they are the real NPCs of the film. They have the plan to protect Aurora, they save Philip, and they are great. However, some of their scenes will go on for too long, and pacing is an issue. So much time is spent on those two kings' antics and fairy shenanigans that the ending actually feels rushed in the end. Okay, I need to talk about Maleficent. Is she the most complex villain? No, but I feel like that's why she's so good. She's a petty, spiteful woman who will stop at nothing for some, like, desperate revenge, and I think the design is incredible, and she's one of the few Disney villains who achieves their goal by the end of the film. Like, she sent us to sleep. But I do think she's a bit overrated, just considering how much people rave on her. She isn't a top 3 Disney villain for me. Like, everyone puts her up there, so. But her death is one of the stronger, which, the more I think about it, this is such a weird metric. Also, people always, like, ask, what's the best Disney villain death? Like, no one does that in real life, do they? Like, oh, who had the best death in real life? I mean, Julius Caesar probably was stabbed in the back like 27 times. That was quite good. Anyway, but I feel like in ways this does improve on Snow White and Cinderella, but then I feel like it goes backwards. And as a film, I just don't think it's as strong as those two. So I actually think it's the worst of the OG 3 princess films, and that is quite controversial, I feel. Okay, 33rd, and it's time for Robin Hood. Now, during this ranking, I really tried to ignore nostalgia, kind of bias, and really take the films as if this was the first time I was seeing them, in a 2023 mindset. And there were a fair few films here that I hadn't seen, so I feel like that was the fairest thing to do. But it was incredibly difficult with certain films, especially with this film. I love this film, and the world's so much fun. Especially the villain. The Sheriff of Nottingham is such a slimy, money-obsessed, cruel man. And Prince John, while not having the presence, his cavalry bring a severe threat, and comedically he's so great and his rapport with Sir Hiss in this film is just so great. The film has a huge cast, but it's actually able to maintain this ensemble and give everyone something to do. Well, and yes, some are obviously going to be more rounded than others, but I feel like everyone gets their moment. The climax, I'm going to say, is honestly a top 5 one for Disney. It's probably the strongest rescue mission they've ever done. There's just so much stakes there. It's so tense, and I feel like it starts slow, but once that cover is blown, like, things just keep going, escalating, and it's so thrilling and just so visually amazing as, like, you just see Robin Hood continuously outbeat every obstacle, no matter what these guards and guys throw at him. And, like, I think the mid-climax as well also has some incredible slapstick, and it's just so much fun. And the main duo bounce off each other so well, and they're so charming. The songs are also all so good, especially the Phony King of England. What a tune. So with all the positivity, why is it so low? Because on rewatch, unfortunately, I noticed a fair few flaws, which I don't like to admit. The romance really feels like an afterthought, and Marion herself is really boring. She isn't used in the climax, which was strange. Also, the ending is really rushed. I wish they would have had just one scene with King Richard actually returning, and I do think I need to talk about the recycled animation, which is notorious, of course, prominent heavily in this film. And honestly, they traced over a few scenes from other films, which could only be noticed if you were doing something like me, or if you were trying to look for it, which it's not a big deal. People always talk about the recycled animation in this film, like it's such a horrible set, and it's not great, like, oh, they're tracing over a film, but we understand why they did it at the time, and, like, animation is hard now. Imagine doing it then. Like, it was... I can excuse them. I really like this film, but unfortunately, over time, many flaws have come to light, and I can only give it a 6.5 out of 10. 32nd now, and I've gone for Raya and the Last Dragon. Look, this film is not very popular, but I think many people go too far in their hate for the film. It's got problems. I think the main kind of core of this film, blind trust message, is just abysmal. The fact that Raya is constantly called out for not trusting people blindly is so ridiculous. And I think Minari having the pieces given to her was so wrong, and Raya should have taken them. And that redeemed Minari, and it only proved that Raya could trust people. And that they got that bit so wrong. Like, what was Minari meant to do in that scene? Like, of course you're gonna say the word. She wanted to bring out the word anyway. She did nothing to prove herself. And the other problem, I feel the fight choreography doesn't connect emotionally. And although it's technically great, it feels really empty. I don't know how to describe it. Also, the quips that Raya and Minari will consistently throw at each other have aged so poorly, and Disney films are meant to be timeless, and this, however, isn't. And these issues absolutely bring the film down and makes it only kind of a 6.5 out of 10, but there are actually some stuff I really like. I think the plot is actually strong. I like the mission and the structure, and I like the crew, and although underutilized, there's so much fun. I enjoy the dynamic pretty well, and okay, let's talk about Sisu. Look, Awkwafina is not a bad actress. She's continuously given these really annoying characters, and she has to do what she can work with. But I'm gonna say it. I did not mind Sisu. She was not that funny, and she was nowhere near the genie. And but her backstory was okay, and I feel like she's just kind of like fun. She just brings hijinks being her. Like, I don't think she needs to be funny, and I feel like 75 of her jokes don't land, but I think the hate for the character is so overblown. So Raya's a film that at its core is broken, a bit like the world that it's in, but there are glimmers of hope and signs of light, and I feel like if they brought them together properly, and maybe fixed the message, or maybe gave certain characters a bit more. I've seen people say a TV show and make this a bit better, and I kind of agree. I think it is a bit rushed in places, but I'm going to go 6.5 out of 10. I think it's better than some will give it credit for, but I don't think it's great either. Okay, 31st now, it's time for Atlantis, The Lost Empire. And it's, yeah, well, it's good. Sort of. This film, something is just missing, and I can't put my finger on it. I just feel like it's missing the grandness and emotional core of the Renaissance films, but the film's okay. Look, I'll give credit to this film for the characters. The crew we actually get to know them, and they have personality, and are not one-dimensional, apart from the villain who is the most predictable twist ever. He's so boring. He's a guy just trying to make a buck when he's already going to be famous. Like, he's stupid, and he's forced, and it's obvious. It's such a bizarre plot point, and I feel like some of the beats are just weird in this film, and Atlantis itself as a world is underwhelming. I know it's meant to be that way because people have lost their kind, but I was just expecting a bit more grandness in the animation. I've always liked Kida's character, and I feel like her character is really well, but I don't like how she spends most of the film out of the picture. The romance with Milo feels a bit unnecessary. Milo really carries this film. I was really invested in him and his aspirations, but everything else kind of falls around him. Am I sad it flopped? Absolutely, but I just don't think it's the underrated gem that some people claim, and I feel like there's another early 2000s film that I think is widely superior. Okay, we're in the top 30 now, and this one probably won't be liked because I think that people want this to be higher, and I've gone for Princess and the Frog. Look, this film was almost amazing, but I feel like there's a few things that do hold this one back in my eyes. The film's plot is where it fails, I feel. It starts off strong, the introductions to each character are neat, however, once Tiana turns into the frog, that second act is a slog every time. It goes on forever. I just don't get why Tiana turns into a frog. Let's compare this to Emperor's New Groove, which we'll focus on later. Kuzco becomes a llama as a lesson to become selfless, and Tiana didn't need to learn anything. The plot has so many variables and rules that for a company known for its simplicity, it's just so off-putting. I feel like they try too much with the plot of this film in a similar sense to Frozen 2. I love Tiana though. I love her as a princess who gets to her position not through wishing on stars or fairy godmothers or genies, but hard work. It's an amazing universal message, and Naveen is so memorable and actually grows with the story, and I feel like that's great. Dr. Facilier is so good, and visually, and writing-wise he's an amazing villain as well. he's another one with a great death scene, and even though and I even enjoy the supporting characters, especially Mama Odie, but this film's climax is way too complex. There's so many moving parts, and Disney's most pointless death scene, which I'm not going to spoil it, but like, I do enjoy bits of it. The music in the film can also be hit or miss. I feel like Almost There is one of the best Princess songs with an amazing vibe and lyrics and great nuance feel. And Friends on the Other Side is so intriguing and unique and just so well animated. However, on the other side, like the Ray song and Louis song, I always forget. I think one of them called like Going Down the Bayou or something. Like the Mama Odie song is okay as well. I like it vocally, but they're just a bit. Also, I really don't like the romance in this film, and people disagree with me. I've had debates with people on this kind of front, but for me, it falls into that kind of 80% argument equal chemistry thing, which you see in every bloody animated film with the forced hetero romance at the end, which is a cliche I hate, but in the end, the film is good, but I feel like it could have been great, so 7 out of 10 for me. Okay, 20s now, and 29th, and I've gone for Alice in Wonderland. This film is absolutely bonkers. A bad adaptation and really pointless if you think about it. However, I don't care. There's something so amusing about this world that just keeps getting crazier and crazier in the world that makes any sense in the slightest, but you kind of get away with it because it's a dream world. The characters in the film are just so memorable and you could pinpoint them from a mile away. They're so recognisable. And there's some I can't stand, like the bloody flowers, but whether it's the Mad Hatter, the March Hare, and their mental tea party, the absolutely insane speak patterns of someone like Cheshire Cat, or like the same riddle speak there of Absalom, like they're so crazy and so entertaining to watch, and it really is a rabbit hole. And Alice herself does have personality. She's not perfect, she gets frustrated, and I think all what's going on, it shows the animation is so interesting, it's abstract, you can tell this was a field day for the animators. The songs are not great. There's so many, and only really a very Merry on Birthday sticks out to me, and as fun as the world is, it has its limitations, and it can't be too high, and while some bits are great, not all the bits work. I've already mentioned the flower bit, but also found the Walrus and Carpenter story really out of place and a bit too cruel for Disney. So Alice is a pretty good film, and I do really enjoy it, but I do think it's limited just based off like what it is on a surface level. So 7 out of 10 for me. 28th now, and I've gone for The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, and this is the film that for what it is, it's just sensational. It's so charming. The film has a simple timelessness to it. There's a magic to it. These characters are naive and flawed, but they're relatable, and they're so engaging to watch. This film is a package film compiled of 3 extended shorts, but they blend together so well, and it doesn't way more of something that feels like something like a Melody Time. But I always loved the first short of Pooh getting stuck in Rabbit's house. I love Rabbit's misery mixed with Pooh's optimism. It's kind of this great kind of spoof thing. The Blustery Day is a great tale of bravery and sacrifice, but also actually have an ironic side to it, which the adults will kind of notice. Pictures and whimsy in this film, and adults will love how self-aware the movie is. I feel like it incorporates a lot of kind of fun fourth wall gags with the narrator, and they always feel natural and amusing when they happen. They never feel like something that is just thrown in there to like be out of place. And the third short is Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2, with I feel like the short has a great charm, and as well as both Tigger and Rabbit actually getting a lesson in the end, and I feel like it's really timeless. This film is just so much great, but again, like Alice in Wonderland, it is limited based off the lack of complexity, but it's a great Disney film. 7 out of 10. 27 now, my god is this a frustrating one. It's Tarzan. This film is on a visual level is second to none. I'm just so astonished every time I watch this with what the animators were actually able to do with Tarzan. He has so much personality and expression. Just the way he moves around. I think the story of the film is just so strong. The main 2 leads are really like the chemistry is actually really there. I love the action and the third act, and I even like Clayton as well. Well, one note I feel like he kind of serves his role and is a genuine threat. I actually don't mind the Phil Collins songs. Of course, I wish the characters sang them, especially with something like You'll Be in My Heart, but they are all bangers. The opening song is so great. I think it's called like Two Worlds, One Family or something. Like it's great. And you know, You'll Be in My Heart really is a great Disney classic. But again, I wish someone else sang it. For all I like, there are a few things that really drag this one down and take a top 10 film potentially and all the way down here. First of all, Tantor and Turk are so unfunny and obnoxious. They want to be Timon and Pumbaa so much, and it comes off as bad. But the worst thing for me with this film is the redemption of Kerchak. I'm gonna lose my head here. This man spends the whole film discriminating against Tarzan for who he is on a surface level, shows no empathy or respect. Then he loses it later on in the film when he brings humans near the gorillas after he kind of bellowed and kind of really nailed down to him that couldn't happen. Because he knew the humans were going to attack. And what do you know? The humans attack and then Kerchak is killed. And then he says Tarzan his son the whole time and he's like, take the tribe and earn it. Like, no. It's so not earned and bullshit. There is no reason for Kerchak. Kerchak should still be furious. Like, he was right. The humans did attack. And although he was horrible to Tarzan, and Tarzan himself was right, he did bring humans. It is so bad. It ruins the film for me. And it's such a baffling decision. Also, the decision for Tarzan to actually stay in the end is kind of a bad ending. Like, he needs, like, realistically, he needed to go. Human right, it's where he belongs at the end of the day, and I feel like it doesn't make sense. And it is nearly, it just honestly should be up there with the rest of the Renaissance, not including Pocahontas or Rescue of Down Under, because they're not really Renaissance films, are they? But it falls, big flaws, and I mean big flaws, tear this down to only a 7 out of 10, but it could have been an 8 or a 9, and I'm really gutted. 26th now, and I'm going to say it. Frozen is a good film. Not a great film, not a terrible film, a good film. Look, I can't really stand people who hate this film just because of sheer popularity and not actual constructive reasons. This film was good, and it was never perfect. And let's start with the issues. My biggest problem is this film's opening. What the parents do to cover up the powers, it makes no sense. I've said it once, I'll say it another time. Like, I really don't get why Elsa doesn't tell Anna after they die. They could have covered up so much easier, and I feel like this opening really ruins the film. They could have still had Elsa run away, but it just feels really bad that Elsa doesn't communicate this massive kind of event thing. Elsa's just a really poorly written character. She gives the message to children that you should run away from your problem. Don't seek reconciliation. Just let it go if you're an outcast of society. They do everything in this film to make Elsa seem good, and that just makes her seem really boring. I feel like she should have been this anti-hero. Maybe not a villain, but it would have been so much better. But Disney was never actually going to do that. Anna, on the other hand, is actually great and really well developed and genuinely matures and grows on this film. And is, as a person, she is the real star of this movie. She's naive in the beginning because she was locked up. She doesn't understand the world. And as she goes on this journey, she does. Olaf actually does work here. And it's genuinely funny. He joins the film halfway through and does get more good laughs, and it's actually way funnier than many other kind of forced kind of sidekicks in Disney films on rewatch, and that's what I say. Okay, let's talk about Hans. Look, I get the message here. I really do. It's clever, it's a funny subversion on Disney trope, but it's so last minute with no setup and the most forced monologue ever. But at least the motive made sense, unlike Callahan. I feel like this film could have been so much better if Hans was obvious to us, the audience, that he was a bad guy, and it was Anna who didn't realise that he was bad. I feel like maybe Hans should have done something that maybe made Elsa and the audience know that he's bad, but Anna doesn't understand that, and you could have still done the same kind of film, but the twist feels out of nowhere, and that was the big issue, not the twist itself, but how out of nowhere it was. And his monologue was so forced. Oh my god. One moment I need to talk about is the tonal shift after Fixer Upper, which is one of the worst balances of tone in Disney ever. Talking to Souls, they are the real eye candy, and there's a reason that everyone was singing them, apart from Fixer Upper. And that bloody Frozen Heart song. Who remembers the Frozen Heart song? But the one exception, of course, to the songs is Fixer Upper. It is so full. And as I've already said, it takes a moment like a frozen heart and makes a tongue-in-cheek cringe song. It's so bad. But the rest are amazing. For the first time forever, Reprise in particular, I really feel doesn't get enough credit for how powerful and emotionally rich it is. Let It Go wasn't just as big as it was for no reason, and it is great, even if it is so overplayed, and it is iconic, even if it, like, again, in context isn't great, but doesn't work. And I've got to say, do you want to say about it? It's still a guilty pleasure. I actually say I do like how it's constructed. Frozen is a good film with some great elements, but also some bad ones that slightly let it down. 7 out of 10. Okay, top 25 now with Peter Pan. Okay, we're just going to skirt over the elephant in the room. The Native Americans really have aged poorly in many senses, but Peter Pan is Disney's not rich film. It's clearly aimed at small children, but I feel like it kind of is just really fun because of that. Unlike Dinosaur, it's got this whimsy to it, and the visual set pieces are magnificent in every way. Pan is just such a great protagonist. He's cocky and arrogant and kind of an asshole, but you root for him because you know his heart is in the right place, and he's just so fun to see how he constantly foils the plan of Hook. And talking of Hook, one of Disney's most entertaining and memorable villains, and his rapport with Mr. Smee is top notch. They're so great at kind of working on each other, and I'm really not big on Tinkerbell. You forget, with how much she's been promoted with her own film franchise, that she's such an asshole in this film. Especially to Wendy. She literally is the one who gives away the hideout and almost makes them all die. Like, I really like the themes of coming of age and accepting the reality that it's okay to grow up sometimes. And I feel like many will feel this in their life, and I feel like it's a great thing to show kids. So it's just a fun time. It's such a great world. It's memorable. It's timeless. It really is great. If we forget the racism. 7.5 out of 10 for me. 24th now, and I've gone for The Jungle Book. Look, this is another one of those kind of shenanigan Disney films, and maybe too high, but damn it, this film was a blast. It's so straightforward when you think about it. Like, kid won't go to the village, Bagheera has to take him there, they keep getting distracted on the journey. Like, it's really basic, but the film is built on character, and they are also great. Whether it's Baloo the Bear, King Louie, Car, the list goes on and on and on. This jungle is just used to its full potential, and so unlimited with what it can do. The songs are top tier as well. Like, they fit the vibe in the world and the energy of the picture, and holds up as Disney greats. Baloo is so good as a good-hearted, not very intelligent bear, and his dynamic and rapport with Bagheera is great. I especially love the fake-out death scene because of how Bagheera reacts, and that was such a funny scene. I love it. But as much as I do love this film, a couple of things do hold it back. The ending always annoyed me. After all that he went for, he just followed some random girl. Like, if he was going to go to the man village, it should have been for a more genuine reason. They could have even still had, like, the girl, but, like, found another reason for that to go there, because it feels so tagged on last minute. Shere Khan is so great, just the way he speaks, he holds so much presence, but he's so underutilized in the film, and I feel like he's beaten in the end a bit too easily, unfortunately. I feel the fight with the monkeys was a better fight than the actual climax, which is quite bad. And as great as the characters were, I always hated those vultures, so Jungle Book for Walt's last film was a great one to go out on, but it's just short of being a top 20 film. 8 out of 10. Okay, 23rd now is Dumbo. It's very hard to ignore the elephant in the room. But if you really turn your brain off, right, and take the crows and their song at face value without any of the context and all the bad stuff, they are good characters with a good song. But there were some real naive mistakes of the time. But the thing with Dumbo, which is really good, is it's really basic and really extremely short, coming in at just kind of 60 minutes, barely. It's such a straightforward story that's why it's such a classic tale. Like, it's a good tale of saying how being different is being okay, and, finding what makes you special. I love Dumbo. It's a classic case of a great mute Disney character, and you forget these actually mute, with so much emotion and expression without speaking. I don't see people mention enough about Timothy Q. Mouse. Like, he's basically Jimmy Cricket, but just so much better. He actually helps Dumbo, and it's a great support system. I even like the other elephants. Yeah, they're the worst of Dumbo, but they have so many fun moments. But two important scenes that must be mentioned is the baby mime sequence. Is and the pink elephant. It is one of Disney's most beautiful sequences of all time, and it's gorgeous for good reason. And the pink elephant scene is amazing, but it is entirely pointless. My only flaw really is the runtime, and that Dumbo doesn't fly to the last 5 minutes. I feel like it is rushed, and I don't get why. Like, I get why it was short, because I feel like they needed to be cheap to recoup the money for Fantasia and Pinocchio, but kind of failed to earn. So Dumbo is a really solid film overall. 8 out of 10. Okay, 22nd now, and it's Hercules. This is one that I really struggled to grasp my thoughts with. There's things I love here and things I just cannot fathom. Let's start with the great things. First of all, the songs are some of the strongest of the Renaissance film, honestly. Won't Say I'm in Love is so powerful and well performed by Susan Egan. Go the Distance is so strong. As an I Want song, I love how it kind of changes and develops as Hercules gets stuff. And it's so good. I love the opening song as kind of a tonal setter. And Zero to Hero, I mean, it's just amazing. But that's enough said on the song. I think the film was really overloaded at points. I feel like they go way too far in places. The human aesthetic can be hit or miss on me. And I have mixed thoughts on the characters. They're good enough. Hercules is good enough. Meg is okay. And her backstory is really great. And Hades is comedically fun, but lacks something for me. And Phil, as much as I love Danny DeVito, I never liked that character. The romance is not too believable either. Like, I get why they would like each other, but it seems way too rushed, unfortunately. Especially for what they do at the end. There's some great thrilling sequences here, but I feel like it's a mixed bag for me that has some fatal flaws, unfortunately. I don't really know how to feel about it, but I feel like it does deserve to be this high. 8 out of 10. 21st. And this film may be way higher than anyone would have originally thought, but I've gone for Meet the Robinson. Look, let's start with a couple of flaws before we get to how good it is. The twists, as good as they are so predictable. Even as a kid, you can see them coming. Also, the family members just don't work for me. There's so many that are just one-dimensional with outdated gags. At least they're not as ones as bad as the quips in Raya. Where this film works is in the heart of the themes of resilience and perseverance. They are just amazing. I love Lewis as a protagonist, not just because the namesake. I'm not that arrogant. He makes mistakes. He's rash, but deep down he has a heart of gold. And he genuinely grows so much in this film to the point he's okay with not seeing his mum at the end. And the bowler hat guy is great. He's such a sympathetic kind of, but really funny at the same time. He's a really petty villain, but he works so well. And although he's not so bright, he's still a real presence, especially with the hat, who's actually kind of the real villain in the end. Also, well, not entirely polished. It's definitely an upgrade on Chicken Little on the visual front. They do a lot more in this film, and it's so underappreciated for me, but unfortunately it just isn't quite in the elite tier with the few flaws I kind of touched on earlier. 8 out of 10 for me. Okay, we have reached the top 20. It became so difficult at this point, I'm going to say it. They're all 8 out of 10s and above, but 20th now I've gone for Moana. Now, compared to other 2010 films, this one is just really straightforward. It's just a fun adventure with fun characters and great songs and kind of an amazing animation. Moana is one of Disney's best protagonists. She's headstrong while also being really naive and out of her depth in places. And her journey of identity and discovery and belief, and so great. Maui might be The Rock's best performance in the film. He pulls off this cocky and arrogant guy with a great depression hidden within. And that's just so greatly done. The songs here are amazing as expected when you have Lin-Manuel Miranda at the wheel, but You're Welcome is hilarious and also so creative visually. How Far It Goes is amazing lyrically and musically, and the reprise I Am Moana is just amazing and so thematic. And Tomato is such a pleasant surprise thrown in by Ron and John, and Shiny is so great. The animation, especially with the ocean, they give it so much personality. It's amazing, and the action is so intense and enticing. And the Takara Tafiti twist was really clever. I did not see that coming at all, and not forced like most modern Disney twists. Unfortunately, I'm glad there wasn't a twist villain here. So I've been really positive so far, but I do have two big issues that hold it back from the likes of Tangled, Zootopia, or Encanto. Firstly, Chief Tui annoyed me. He's depriving his own people due to past naivety and fails, and he never apologises to Moana when she comes back. But my bigger issue with this film is the whole mission. So, the whole mission of this film is about sailing the ocean, get Maui's to restore the heart. that's way back. But in the third act, Maui leaves and Moana goes to restore it anyway. So after a big song, so why was Maui needed? So the whole section of the film about getting Maui and then getting his hook in the realm of monsters, it was pointless. Like, what did Maui even do in the final fight, really? That kind of annoys me. I feel like, and also, why does he come back? Like, it's such an out of nowhere U-turn. They don't even give him like a reason. He just shows up. He just stormed off and like, oh, now he's back. It was like, oh. This film's strong in places, but then there's a few things that do hold it back for me, so I can only give it an 8 out of 10, unfortunately. But I wish I could put it higher. Okay, we're in the teens now with 19, and it's The Great Mouse Detective. I hate to admit that this was my first watch of this film, and for years I've heard that this was an underrated gem, and this good I was not expecting. Everything just works here. I think that comes down to the characters. They're also likeable and memorable. Basil is an arrogant character done right. He's confident and full of himself, but he actually backs it up with, like, in a fascinating way. I love the fascinating ways he solves each obstacle, and his foil Ratigan is even better. He's so extravagant and entertaining, but also being such threatening. And Vincent Price is so good in the role. You believe every word that comes out that guy's mouth so much, and the two going toe to toe. It's just so much fun, especially in the climax and that clock tower. And that clock tower like really paved the way for Disney to use more CGI, and it's kind of their first use of it. And it's just such an amazing payoff. The film's just such a blast. It may not be the most like rich emotional film, but it's just a really fun film that you could really watch in any mood. 8 out of 10. 18th, and I've gone for The Emperor's New Groove. Is it the most highbrow or emotionally rich Disney film? Clearly not, but it's just so much fun. The film's hijinks and slapstick here is just second to none, and the adult humour is not out of place, and they find a way to incorporate it within the tone. And it's really cleverly inserted a lot of the time. There's a lot more humour here than like other Disney films. I feel like that's great. I love Tuco's arc. He genuinely grows as a person as he gets a new worldview, and I love his bromance with Patcher. And I love how the latter won't give up on him, no matter how many times Cusco almost double-crosses him. And I feel like his arc isn't rushed, he takes time. Also love Yzma and Kronk. Their dynamic is so entertaining, and they make such a great duo and have so much fun. You love when they're on the screen. They're honestly even better than Cusco and Patcher. Kronk's third hour change of heart is so great as well, and to do her thing, Yzma is decent as a villain, although I do think she's a bit overrated by some, but she serves her purpose in the film. But this film is just screaming for songs, and it's a shame none are included. I feel like Cusco needed a song in this film, it just had to happen, and it also contains one of those end of second act fourth breakups, only for them to get back together 10 minutes later, which was unnecessary, and the film can be predictable at points, and they go a bit too far with some jokes, and unfortunately with a film like this, it can only be this high, but I'm going 8 out of 10. 17th now, and it's the one that started it all, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Or as they call it now, Snow White and the Seven Sorry. Now, has this film aged poorly in places? Absolutely. But can we just not take a moment to talk about how monumental this film was? A feature-length cartoon that wasn't based in comedy. It's sensational. It's hard to speak on this film because we wouldn't have the other 60 without it. It's the foundation, and it deserves respect. However, it is flawed in places. The pace is a big issue for me. At points, there's a 10-minute scene of the dwarves washing their hand. Was that really needed? And it means that nothing happened for a long time, so when the climax comes out of nowhere, it just feels shot. The romance is so bad. The prince isn't a character. He just isn't. And the fact how easily Snow White runs away with him is very dated. The age gap also just wouldn't fly today. I just have to point that out. Like, the prince is 30 odd and she's 15, 16. At a push. Snow White is an okay character, actually. She's a really young, clearly manipulated, well-mannered and kind young woman, and I feel like she goes through such shock in that opening scene that it makes sense that she acts the way she does. I feel like people really gripe on her, but you've got to think, this girl was probably manipulated and used by the Queen for years, and to go through a near-death experience with one of her most trusted huntsmen, it's that must have shocked this young girl. She's She's got no parents. I feel so bad for her. Where this film delivers, though, is really with the dwarfs. They're so great. The slapstick and visual gags they do with dwarfs are great. And I love the comedy they do with these guys and how they... But they actually do care and they help Snow White. The evil queen is a simple villain with a clear petty motive. However, she's okay for what she is. And her death is amazing again. Also, some of the scary imagery in this film is so imaginative and genuinely scary. I wish Disney did more stuff like this. So, Snow White is flawed to the standard that Disney would eventually set as time went on, but as a first film in a foundation, it deserves an 8 out of 10, and the good elements definitely outshine the poor elements that have aged with time. Okay, 16th now, and it's Cinderella. I've seen others rank this film so low, and I don't get many of the complaints. I really don't. I need to address one thing. I don't get many people's hate on Cinderella. She is a headstrong in her own way. She puts up with so much throughout this film. And he's always so polite, keeps her head down, is hardworking, and gets rewarded for that. Does get out of that room in the end, and she's way better than the other two original princesses for me. Although my only wish is that, like, I know the Cinderella story is so based off the transformation, but I kind of would have wished that the prince loved her in her rags, and if the prince kind of showed up and caught her in her rags, and they had a moment they kind of realised, you know what, I loved you for who you were, and I thought that could have really expanded the film. They do that in a sense of the live action one. I actually think the live action one is the only live action one that exceeds the original, but you know. Having the transformation scene with that Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo moment is just cinema. It never gets old. This film just has a magic to it. I just love it. I love Tremaine as this kind of realistic, very spiteful woman, and she's just so cruel, but she's real. This film does have a few things I don't like. The film's pace, like Snow White, again, can be an issue. Given the more hijinks and that bloody king so much screen time and seems to drag out so much more. What really matters is the prince and Cinderella. But the prince also, he's got the personality of sandpaper. There's no skirting around it, and he doesn't even go to find her. Like, I always found that weird. Why does he not go? Why does he just send the girl? Like, it would have been a way better scene. I never got that. The romance is way better than Snow White and Sleeping Beauty. She doesn't know he's the prince. They naturally come together and they get so lost talking and dancing away they lose the time, and that is brilliantly done. That is romantic. You can't tell me it isn't. So Cinderella, I feel, yes, it has its issues. However, I feel like people go over the top, and I've seen people put this in the bottom 10, and I'm just like, what are you doing? It's an 8.5 out of 10. Okay, we're into the top 15 now. We're with WreckIt Ralph. Now, if you know anything about me, I'm not a video gamer at all. I know nothing about video games. But this film isn't really about video games. The cameos of the likes of Pac-Man or Sonic are more afterthoughts. They come after the actual story on the show. And I've seen people complain about this film taking too much time in Sugar Rush. I disagree. It takes a game and expands on it, and it's those characters, and it stays character focused on these guys, and they're really well done. Let's talk about those characters, shall we? Ralph is definitely like this anti-hero, but you understand how he feels, because he's the villain in a game. Everyone has rejected him. But he acts selfish, and he doesn't think about the game. But he learns not everything can go right, and I feel like that's a way better message than what they do in the second film, where they just give Vanellope everything she wants, and gives her no repercussions for going to her. But anyway, I'm talking about the first film. And I feel like he really learns it's okay. Just because he's the bad guy doesn't mean he has to be a bad guy, but he can still play that role. King Candy is probably the best twist villain that Disney did. The twist isn't that he's bad. You kind of know that. It's not hard to guess. It's the fact of who he is and what he did to Vanellope. And wow, that scene when he convinces Ralph to destroy the car is such a clever scene. I love Vanellope, actually. Sarah Stillman was born to play the role, and you feel for her. The Ralph-Vanellope relationship has this father-daughter relationship to it, unlike the sequel. I like Felix and Calhoun, especially Calhoun with a backstory, but I wanted more, and I'm so glad the sequel really expanded on these characters. Wait. It's just so rich in themes and emotion and character, and it really deserves an 8.5 out of 10. 14th now, and this one shocked me. It really did. It's The Fox and the Hound. Such a gorgeous tale of how two animals get separated due to instincts and circumstance they can't control. It's such an emotional film. Oh my god, that scene when Todd has to let go of absolutely is heartbreaking. I love watching this relationship deteriorate and how they fall apart. The tension in some of the scenes here is so powerful. I just love this story. There's a couple things I'm not massive on though. I feel the flashback children's stuff, it's a little rushed. However, once their friendship gets going, it is gorgeous. I also think Chief needed to die to really raise the stakes. And totally could have. Like, what does he do after he died? Like, I think he was meant to die originally, but they changed it because it was almost too dark. And I feel like the love interest maybe could be feels a bit too shoehorned in. However, I do like the interaction with Todd and her interaction. Todd thinking he knows everything when that actually is useless. I love the farmer, and I love how he changes his heart. And that felt really earned to me. It doesn't hold a candle to the book. But, you know, come on, they were always going to Disneyfy it. And to be honest, it's just a really strong, cute, and emotional film. And I really don't think it will leave a dry eye in the room. 8.5 out of 10. 13th now, and wow, this is another shocking one. 101 Dalmatians. It's a story of two halves, really. The first half is just so charming and well told. By these two lead humans, it's so sweet and well done. And the music just really fits its timeless, gorgeous feel. I love Pongo and Portia. They're so desperate to save their puppies, and they are so great characters. But the second half, wow, this film I'd somehow never seen. The only one in the Walt era I hadn't. I was not expecting the journey in this film to be so bloody intense. I love Prison Break films, and the tension and stakes here are so good. I love this journey and all the side characters they meet, especially the cat. I always love the cat. I just love their drive and determination to protect the puppies no matter the cost. Like, I love Cruella. She's so psychopathic and just batshit insane, and that is why she's so good. She's ruthless, she's crazy, and she's one of Disney's best villains, and I don't really think there's a debate on that front. I also really like the Harry and Marv-esque henchmen following them as well. You offer amazing slapstick, and it's just great to watch be constantly outwitted by the heroes. And for having 101 of those Dalmatians, a fair few of them actually do get character and are fun. And my only complaint, I'd say, I guess, is that I wish the humans weren't so sidelined in the second half, considering how vital they were in the beginning, but this film took me by surprise. I was really impressed. 9 out of 10. Okay, 12 now. It's Aladdin. Okay, let's be real, out of the big four of the 90s, this is the weakest. It's still great, and a 9 out of 10, but it has one too many flaw. This film has so many plot holes I won't go into today because we will be here all day, but 2 examples. Only one may enter. Then Aladdin enters with a boo. Why didn't Jafar just send Iago in? Why does Aladdin need to wish to be a prince again just because Jafar changed his clothes? That's just 2 examples for you. Hot take with this film, actually. I think the genie's a bit overrated. I'm going to say it. Robin Williams is great in the role and his songs are great. However, I don't find him that funny. And I think his stick gets old after a while. And I never really have. But enough complaining. There's a reason why we do love this film. And I feel like the characters are really strong. I love Aladdin himself. He's flawed, but he means well. And I get why he actually is this diamond in the rough. Jasmine is so progressive for 1992. But it isn't in your face like maybe the live action remake. She was such a good step in the right direction for Disney princesses. Carpet is another example of dialogue-less magic, and Jafar is so clever and cunning, and Gilbert Godfrey is amazing, but you'd expect that from someone of the ilk of Gilbert Godfrey, rest in peace. The use of CGI, especially in kind of the Cave of Wonder escape scene, is so on point, and the music is timeless, ignoring the lyrics of the opening song. One Jump Ahead is such great pace and tells a story. Friend Like Me and Prince Ali are so creative, and Williams is so stellar in his vocal performance. New World is just amazing in every single way possible. Words can't express it. I always wish Jafar got a better song than the Prince Ali reprise, but it is what it is at the end of the day. The film's themes are quite great, with being honest and life making you richer than actually money, and Aladdin isn't perfect, but I think it is still an amazing film and gets a bit too much hate, but I don't think it's quite on the level of Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast and the Lion King, so 9 out of 10. 11th now, and just outside of the top 10, I've gone for Lilo and Stitch. This film is a film that has no right to be this good on paper. It's a disaster on paper. This alien creature cross landing on Earth and being looked after by a little girl while other aliens are after it. It's a disaster waiting to happen. It's Chicken Little's best friend. But where this film works is not where you'd think it is. It's the relationship between those two sisters. Lilo is one of my top 3 favourite Disney characters ever. She's bad behaved and aggressive because she's broken. And she's been hit with something so horrible. She's so quirky and so real. And she's not polished at all, but and has that bad attitude. But she knows she's not a bad person deep down. And the characterization is so good with her. I also love Nani. You feel for this girl, trying to balance her own life, but also trying to provide for her family. And she's clearly not equipped to do so, as much as she tries. And you feel her frustration. Lilo sees her as a sister, and that's what she is. And I love her arc in this film, as she learns what it takes to be that parento figure. I also really like Cobra Bubbles. He could have easily been like antagonistic or a villain, but you can tell through subtlety he really does feel bad for Nani, but he knows he has to do what's best for these two girls. I like how he becomes more and more human as the film goes on. So the human stuff is amazing. What about the alien stuff? Well, not as good, obviously. It's still really, really good. Stitch is such a great character, with a classic kind of man behind the monster arc. His story is so sweet. I love how he relates to Lilo in a way, and they both feel like outsiders in their own society. In this world, this film's themes just make family so strong. It's one of the best messages in a Disney film ever. However, as strong emotional as this film is, the comedy is just as good. Jumbo and Pleat is such a great double act who offer great relief, and their stuff is able to fit with the rest of the film. The climax is so much fun and gets everyone involved, and even Gamtu is a decent enough villain, despite, underutilized. But that's probably my only real complaint. Lilo and Stitch is an absolute Disney classic and really deserves a 9 out of 10. Now we're at the top 10 with Bambi. This film really is a top 10 Disney film and the best pre-Renaissance film in my opinion. It starts sweet and cute with amazing artistry, but as the film progresses it gets dark and you forget how intense things get by the end with the forest fires and fights. It's a true coming of age story. The film is so much more than the film where Bambi's mum dies, and that scene chills every time. What a bold thing for Disney to do. This film's nature aesthetic is so gorgeous, the colours and visuals are so amazing, these scenes are timeless. I love The Great Prince and how as Bambi gets older he gets more involved as he passes that torch on, and only for him to fade away near the end. Complex, but they're not meant to be. It's about the characteristics of the forest, it's about nature and the visual. They do that. It's just such an amazing film full of emotion, passion, and just so many visuals. And for me, the best pre-Renaissance Disney film. And I feel like it maybe not be as developed or rich as other better Disney films, but nothing matters in that front. This film is cinema, and a 9 out of 10. Ninth now, and it's a big one. I've gone for The Little Mermaid. This film saved Disney. From minute one, you feel that this is an event. It was an innovation like never seen before. The animations, what Harold Ashman and Tim Rice were able to do musically is unbelievable. This film was everything for Disney. There's one thing right off the bat I need to address. Ariel, for years, people have called Ariel out for being this stubborn, shallow and unlikable girl who gave everything just for a man, and I'm like, did you watch the film? Ariel was a rebellious 16-year-old who had interest in human culture long before she met Eric. It was never really about Eric, to be honest. It was more about being part of that world. She's not unlikable. She's young and she wants more than this world. And for a character that can't speak for half the film, she manages to have more personality than the first 3 Disney princesses, so that's on it. She's naive, but she's sweet, and you feel for her. And Ariel does realise her mistake. She is apologetic. She's a great character. Eric is also a good step in the right direction. Probably the worst Renaissance prince, but at least he gets to know the girl, and there's a little bit there, so like... But there's way more memorable princes, unfortunately, later on. And more memorable characters in the film. So, Ursula is so great. She's manipulative, cunning, and actually intelligent, until she gets the trident. I always didn't like her death. She had the power of the ocean, and she lost to a boat. That was stupid. But she's so well performed, and her design is so great. Trident is great as well as this flawed, overprotected, but well-meaning father. He's a great character, and I love the arc that he goes through when he realises he has to let her go. Sebastian is just a blast to watch, although his scene with Louis can be a bit tedious, unfortunately. I don't find the slapstick there all too funny. But he's so entertaining. Same with Scuttle and Flounder. I feel like the songs are timeless. Part of Your World is one of the best I Want songs. And Amy Poehler blows me away vocally. Pawn Portrait's Falls is so clever, as you as the audience know her subtle messaging, but Ariel is just so oblivious. Kiss the Girl is a jam, and Under the Sea is so great. The animation is so vibrant, with so much expression. This film, I feel, gets so much hate, but really deserves to be here. Okay, 8th now. This was another one that shocked me. It's Zootopia. Zootopia was a film I had very little expectation for it when it first came out in 2016. It looked okay, but was it really needed? But when it came out, it exceeded my expectations to an insane degree. Everyone compliments the insane messaging and underlying themes the film portrays, which were, well, we'll get to it, but without that, you just get a really great heist film with two really likeable protagonists. Nick and Judy play off each other so well, and yeah, it's a classic opposites turn friends, however, it feels natural and there's chemistry there, and it's off the charts, and I'm just very glad they didn't get together. It's great Disney was actually able to have a hetero friendship for once. Until, of course, the sequel, where they will inevitably get together, but I'm just hoping they don't. The film is just so clever. The world is so unique and well designed. All the characters justify being animals. There's so many endless great gags and ways they incorporate these different people into this world. The film has a huge ensemble as well. They're just so memorable. Whether it's the hilarious Flash, the act tough but heart of gold inside Chief Boga, the great comedics like Clawhauser, or the amazing Duke Weselton. Weaselton. These characters are just so much fun. Let's talk about Bellwether. Yes, she's a last minute no setup out of nowhere twist villain in the final 10 minutes, but I'm okay with it. Her motives make sense, unlike Professor Canahan. And I love the way she's defeated. She's essential to the message, and where this film shines is in its portrayal of racism, so clever, how they use prone predators to tackle stereotypes and productive. For Disney to tackle something like this is unbelievable, and such a great step in the right direction. Yes, some bits can be on the nose, however there's some great subtle things, like the Tiger Man putting a child closer to her. It's such a great message, and Bellwether, being the villain, shows that anyone can be that monster. You can't remove her as the villain, so I feel like it was a clever twist, it just was too last minute, a bit like Haunt. The characters are so memorable, the message is so clever. I'm going to give this the first 9.5 out of 10. 7th now. And I cannot believe this film is this good. It's Treasure Planet. This film is unbelievable in so many ways. The steampunk aesthetic is really effective. I just don't care what you say. It's sensational. Interesting. Adds a whole new feel to the story. But where this film shines more than any other Disney film, it's in the relationship between Jim Hawkins and Long John Silver. John Silver is the best Disney villain. Okay, I'm gonna say it. Instead of being a twist, we know he's the bad guy, but we watch him slowly care for this boy, and even after he wins everything, makes the biggest sacrifice to lose all of the treasure for this boy. It's the best arc in a Disney film. He alone makes us a top 10 Disney film. And Jim, well, he starts off basic. As you learn his backstory with his father, you get invested in place. I love that scene with the pop song as the two grow to see each other, and you see that strong bond come together. The action is so on point and stakes inducing. I really like the robot in the second half. His past intriguing me, and he's funny enough. Amelia and Ben are great, although I wish they got more to do. This film is just so underrated and a true Disney great, and needs more respect. 9.5 out of 10. 6th, and it's probably the Disney film I was left most frustrated with. Hunchback of Notre Dame. Wow, just wow. This film did things other Disney films could only dream of. The fact a Disney film was able to talk about religion and the power people can get from it, and genuinely have themes of lust and greed, while also incorporating gypsies and their culture. This film was not made for children. Until you get the gargoyles, they're so not funny at all, and their song is one of the most out of place things ever. It has a worse tonal shift than Frozen somehow, but I refuse to let them ruin the film for me. The gargoyles will not ruin an otherwise perfect film. Frollo is so great as a villain because he's accurate to people who have actually and have existed and still do exist. We see lust consume it to the point he goes on off the rails, as Esmeralda won't leave his head, and Hellfire is one of the best things Disney has ever put onto our screens. He's so scary and real, and as for the other characters, I love Esmeralda. I was so invested in her story. I love how her song is about helping her people. The one Disney I want on that isn't selfish in the slightest. She's so great. I love her relationship with Phoebus. It's great. They have chemistry, and Phoebus has such great... I just love his dynamic with Quasi as well. Quasimodo is such a great character. He's sympathetic, relatable to many. I love how he doesn't get the girl in the end, but he can still be happy, and it's a good message. It's a good happily ever after. Unlike, of course, the original. Don't read the original, but it will scar you. So yes, it has its issues. However, I cannot believe some of the themes and things that this film went to tackle. Don't let the gargoyles ruin it for you. Okay, we're breaking into the top 5 now, and it's the big one. It's The Lion King. Okay, I'm going to get it out of the way. The Lion King is overrated. That does not mean it's not amazing or a top 5 Disney film, because it is. But the way people talk about this film is the greatest film of all time, it isn't true. And for me, there's 4 better than it. However, let's start with what's worse. The score, first of all, is unbelievable. What Hans Zimmer was able to do with this film is sensational. That scene where Simba comes back after defeating Scar just is cinema. And the song, wow. Elton John was able to complete some of Disney's best. Circle of Life is such an amazing scene on every level, from music to vocals. Just Can't Wait to Be King is such a blast. It's got that childhood naivety to it, and I love Rowan Atkinson's bits and his delivery. Be Prepared is the best villain song for me in a Disney film, and the Nazi-like visuals are incredible. Hakuna Matata, while not my favourite, is so iconic for good reason, and Can You Feel the Love Tonight is both beautiful and hilarious at the same time. The characters are all great. Simba has a great coming-of-age arc as he learns to fight his demons. Nala is given incentive to seek help and find someone. Let's be real, that was progressive for the 90s. Timon and Pumbaa are what every comic relief before and after wanted them to be. They're funny, but they can do the serious moments as well. Scar is my second favourite Disney villain, so manipulative, well planned, and actually achieves his goal in the film. This film did something no Disney film could ever do. That whole stampede sequence is so anxiety inducing and heartbreaking. They show the body. That was unprecedented for Disney before. They never did that in Bambi or anything else. However, for all the praise, a few things will hold it back. And that is with the message handling. I love the message, and that stick scene is so great. I'll never get over the live action remove it. But I knew I'd have to mention that atrocious remake somehow. Anyway, everyone remembers that scene. It's in the past, it doesn't matter. However, when Simba confronts his past, the lionesses are all against him until Scar reveals he did kill Mufasa. And I don't know, that kind of turned me off in rewatch. But really it's a bit nitpicking, and this film is so sensational. I'll never get over how the studio believed Pocahontas was a big film and this was an appetizer. So close to being a 10, but I have had to give it a 9.5 out of 10 in the end. Top 4 now, and it's Encanto. Just don't speak. I know what you're thinking. Mid-Canto. Oh, I think it's so sad that now people can't even accept this film is so good. Like, yes, it's over popular and it's Frozen all over again for me. This film came out of nowhere. I saw trailers and I thought it was okay, but I thought Raya would be the big film of 2021, but when this came out, wow, everything just works here. This film's journey takes place in one setting, this house, and they're able to give it so much expression and character. I swear the Casitas are a better character than the leads in the bottom 10 films of this list. Definitely a better lead than the bloody lead of Dinosaur or Black Cauldron. How this film is able to take people with insane powers and make it relatable to people who feel overworked with expectations too high. But what's great about this film is Alma is wrong. She's overworking people, focusing too much on helping the people. She forgets her own family's mental health, and when she's called out for that. Wow, that scene when Mirabelle calls her out is so chilling, but she does realise her mistakes. And you get a backstory. She's a flawed character, but not a villain. I love that. I love how the songs are used in this film. They add to the narrative, and you can't tell the story without them. They also go all out visually, which is a breath of fresh air for a company so obsessed with this photorealism. Lynn's work with the songs is insane, whether it's the amazing, well-constructed emotional surface pressure, the amazing character moment, What Else Can I Do, the emotional, rich and relatable Waiting on a Miracle. This film cast of characters is so memorable. While some will get more than others, they all have their own quirks and things that makes them stand out, and I actually really like the ending, as they realise they have cracks, and they have family chemistry and come together. Encanto is just so good with so much going for it, and probably deserves its own video at some point. It's getting the first 10 out of 10. We have now reached the top 3, and it's Tangled. The Little Mermaid before this brought Disney back to winning formula, and you could argue that The Princess and the Frog did it with critics. However, this was the first one to do it at the box office for the 2010. This film is just so good. The plot is so effective and well told. Every question you might have is answered, and the setup is so good. This film isn't too complex. It's a point A to point B story, while both are being chased by practically everyone else. But unlike Moana, it makes sense. The two leads here are so good. Rapunzel is a great mix of being heroic and naive. She's so fun to watch, but also is clueless at the same time, and she's really entertaining because of it. Flynn Rider might be my favourite Disney hero. He goes from a thief, and he learns he can be more. I think the romance is really natural, and for Disney, probably the most realistic of them. His arc is so good, and plus he's entertaining, and seeing the progression from Florian to Flynn just shows how far the company have come. Gothel was the last great Disney villain for me. She's ruthless, cruel, and manipulative. She's so clever in how she acts, and is one of the best Disney villains. The animation is fantastic, and one of my favourite scenes is when Rapunzel is reunited with her parents, and there's no dialogue, and there's just so much emotion. Maximus is another example of animation masterclass. The way they portray that character is just sensational. You know how he feels in every scene. His arc is also great. The songs are so much better than Princess and the Frog. I love the pop guitar jam When Will Life Begin. Mother Knows Best, such a great villain song with amazing imagery and gaslighting. And its subsequent reprise, Rapunzel Knows Best, is a great twist showing the manipulation of Gothel. I Have a Dream is so brilliant, and it really shouldn't be. And oh my god, I See the Light is cinema, as they both start the song in their head and then they are singing to each other in the end. Wow! This film has everything on every level. It doesn't try to do much. It's straightforward, and that makes all the other elements pop out and shine. 10 out of 10. And now to her left. Your runner-up is Mulan. This may have shocked you. This film never really gets the respect it deserves. This film does feminism better than modern Disney could ever dream of. Mulan isn't a badass from minute one or the chosen one. She's weak, but she makes the most selfish sacrifice ever to protect her father, and she works hard twice as hard as everyone else and becomes a warrior. What a message. This is how feminism is done right. It's unbelievable. Mulan is an inspiration to every young girl watching it. The film is so well told and the tone is managed. That moment where a girl we're fighting for cuts off and we find out everyone is dead, it's chilling. I want to talk about Shan Yu. As many call him an awful villain. Is he the most legendary? No, but he serves his purpose as a great big threat and is a real daunting presence. And one of the things I find more amusing is that how he's probably the least sexist character in the movie, honouring Mulan as the soldier from the mountain, which says a lot, I think. I think the songs are unbelievable, reflecting one of the most deep and rich songs, and is one of the most well written. And I'll Make Man of You is so chilling, amazingly performed by Donny Osmond, and genuinely delivered one of the best training montages in cinema. The side characters are so much fun and memorable, and the way this film talks about sexism, it isn't on the nose. It's subtle and clever, and it really feels... This film is a better example to women than many live-action films released in the past 10 years. This film deserves so much more respect, and is a 10 out of 10. And now, just one remains. Let's be real. You knew this was number one. Beauty and the Beast. This film is genuine perfection on every level. But let's start with the most common criticism of the film. Belle does not have Stockholm Syndrome, and I can't believe people actually believe this. Belle runs away, the Beast is knocked out cold, and Belle comes back because of her kindness. She isn't a prisoner. Like, honestly, the Beast lets her go later on, and she still comes back. It isn't Stockholm Syndrome. Like, Belle isn't even really a prisoner in this film. Like, it's kind of a joke. Like, it's a kind of an in-name only thing. Like, okay, so now we're on the same page, right? This film's romance is so well constructed. It starts broken, and unlike other things, it takes time. They both have to put the margins in to actually make it work, and we see the best come out of both of them in because of it. Beastark is so genius, and you see it in his animation and colours. He starts off in all four, acts like an animal, wearing dark red, but as he learns and changes, he starts to look more like a man in a blue suit. The visual animation of this man is sensational, and his arc is one of the best in Disney history. It's genius, and his opposite, Gaston, is one of Disney's best. He's just an asshole, escalates his antics, so desperate for Belle. The side characters are great, especially the servants. Each one's so memorable, they play off each other so well, and the rapport Lumiere and Coxworth in particular is so great. The song really is the jewel in the crown. What Howard Ashman and Tim Rice achieved is sensational. Belle is the perfect I Want song. So great at storytelling and setting up the main hero villain and setting in. The Gaston song is such a bop with great choreography and fight set pieces. Be Our Guest on a visual level is absolutely phenomenal, and it's so iconic for a reason, and tells all the time. Words can't describe the performance of the late Angela Lansbury. It's timeless. The way the camera tilts and moves, it's just cinema. I've always found the mob song so underrated as well. I love the lyrics and tone it makes. The final fight and ending is amazing. The beast doesn't fight back until Belle arrives. Gaston's death is amazing, and the ending is so satisfying. You can say there's plot holes or things that haven't aged okay, but I don't care. This is cinema, and this is a film on. This is one of the best films, not just by Disney, but in cinema history. I don't think Disney can ever beat the achievement that they reached for Beauty and the Beast, and of course it's a 10 out of 10. And that was that. What an adventure. So what did we learn? Well, Disney is a company that has a mixed range of films, ranging from near unwatchable to cinematic icons, and there may be more bad or just okay Disney film, but that makes the great ones even more better. So no matter what shit Bob Iger does, I will always love this company and its artistry. I've had an absolute blast in this marathon. I feel like it's just been so much fun to delve into so many films, and there's certain films I want to do full-fledged videos. Some that I really liked and some that I didn't like. This was a great journey, and I want to know how you felt about it. So please get in the comments if you made it to the end. Let me know which patients you agreed or disagreed with the most. I want to have that discussion. So yeah, if you made it to the end, wow, I feel so thankful for you. But I'm just gonna say it. Coming up, I'm changing around the schedule a bit, so I don't really know. But I know I've got the Monsters University video I'm doing a Taylor Swift ranking video, and I've got some songs coming out, of course some great videos over Christmas going into the new year, so yeah. And I've got a few updates as well coming in early next year, so yeah. Goodbye.